celebrate the journey of the brightest minds behind some of the most inspiring brands in Asia.
How we deliver better digital experiences for consumers.
Prominent leaders from the world of marketing, advertising, and media are leveraging digital technologies to solve key business challenges. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Insights with InMobi, a video series where we celebrate the journey of the brightest minds behind some of the most inspiring brands in Asia. In this thought leadership series, we explore how some of the most prominent leaders from the world of marketing, advertising, and media are leveraging digital technologies to solve key business challenges. I'm your host, Nitin Navaratna, and I head strategic partnerships for InMobi. Joining me today is someone I've had the privilege to work with for the last 2 years. She's at the forefront of driving digital revolution for one of the largest and most influential companies. She's the digital hub lead for Unilever in Philippines. As the digital hub lead, she and her team work with key Unilever brands and facilitate data-driven marketing. They create data strategies around audience segmentation, e-commerce, and measurement. I'm super thrilled to welcome Wence. Hey,
Thanks,
Wence.
Nitin. Hi. How
Super
are
thrilled to
you?
have you.
Likewise.
So, Wence, it's great to have worked with you for the last 2 years. We've spoken in the past as well about how interesting your role is in the way it kind of comes together, where you have a horizontal approach that you have to take within Unilever to solve for different brands which address different audiences, right? I mean, you've had such a stellar career doing some of the most exciting work with one of the largest brands like Unilever. Tell us a little more about your personal journey in the industry, building the brand Unilever as such.
Right. So I've always been digital, Nitin, and I've been doing it for more than 14 years. I've started working for digital agencies and then I moved to brands, actually different industries, from QSR to telco to even conglomerates, right? Building digital marketing campaigns to digitally inclined innovation, which focuses on data, on experience, etc. And it's really quite a journey. And I feel at the end of the day, my stint in Unilever, which is what I call even before I joined Unilever as the University of Marketing,
Yeah.
it's it brings everything together because Digital Hub is all about that, bringing all brands together to really capture data-driven marketing the right way. From creating demand to converting demand to even continuously engaging with our consumers. That's what we do. That's what the team does. And it's not just me. Basically, I'm a part of the team. And we have different experts from media, from data, IT, legal, what have you. All of us are working with the brands to really drive that data-driven marketing across. Yeah.
Super nice. I think, as I said, right, I really envy your role, and I'm sure in the Philippines, there'll be a lot of uh, young people who really look up to you, and I have some info firsthand of that. But anyways, having said that, look, the Philippines market, right, has, in Southeast Asia, if you broadly look at most of the reports, right, Philippines has taken over the digital revolution, right? I think it's pretty much like the number of people who actually are consuming content, not just about content, the number of people who actually are buying goods online is equivalent to the internet penetration you have in the country almost, for that matter, right?
Right.
An average time a user spends, on his mobile is about 10 hours a day, right? Surpassing most of Southeast Asia counterparts, right? Now, just help me understand the shifts that were brought, with the onset of pandemic, right? What has this been like, right, for Unilever, right? If you look at the exponential trajectory that you've seen in the last 2 years.
Of course, we follow where the consumers are. And that's the right thread, right? You always focus on the customers, etc. And we saw, numbers won't lie, e-commerce is growing exponentially, as well as digital media, because that's where people consume content. And it's not just because of e-commerce, but because of the shutdown of the biggest network that we have in the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
So people really tuned into digital. And it continuously supports the e-commerce growth because everything is shoppable, right? With the organization in Unilever, personally, it feels like day one every day. We learn new things. We learn new ways to do e-commerce, to do data-driven marketing better, because everything is evolving at a fast-paced, approach. There are, more advanced ways to target people, to serve them with more interactive ads. There's a better way for us to measure, etc., etc. There are a lot of capabilities that can be unlocked, and it's in the past few months, we've been very cognizant and we've been very mindful of so many tech bets that we need to make. Whatever is relevant for the consumers, whatever will drive growth, that's where we will put our heads on, right? Because we feel that it's important, especially with the trajectory, to sustain the momentum, especially for e-commerce growth that's growing at an exponential speed. I also see that more and more brands are seeing the importance of data, especially in Unilever. We're growing our own data so that we can prepare ourselves for the cookieless scenario, right? And not just any data, but actionable data that will allow us to target across all walled gardens. So aside from growing the data, and we have a lot of projects within InMobi actually in terms of growing our first party database, we're also adopting a test and learn approach in order for us to leverage on data and see how best we can leverage it to drive business results, which ties back to e-commerce growth.
How do you see this evolving? What do you see for the next next 3-4 years, 5 years? Where do you see the Philippines market going?
Right.
Because few things that have happened in the last 2 years has been phenomenal for the market.
True. If anything, something's telling me that Filipinos will seek for better digital experiences, right? E-commerce growth will not stop. It will continue growing at a sustained, fast rate. But because of that, because more Filipinos are now more savvy in shopping online, they will seek more ways for them to shop better. And not just in the store, but in the journey going to that store, right? They'll seek better ways to have a convenient, more relevant shopping experience, right? And because data is a component of that, there will also be a more evolved responsibility for the brands to deliver unmissable content experiences that fits well with the passion points of the audiences. Because it's all about relevance, right? We're just not here to sell shampoo. We're here to sell an experience for our consumers. So I see that in 4 to 5 years, there will be more virtual interaction between the brands and the consumers. And I'd hate to say the buzzword metaverse, but it will happen. A lot of tech companies are already investing in metaverse, right? It gives a whole new dimension, and literally for its users to level up their digital experiences.
So you're essentially talking about personalization, right?
Yeah, personalization.
I mean, which is pretty much the core of what Unilever thinks, which is 1 to 1 billion interactions is what you guys call out, right?
Correct.
I mean,
that's actually one of our goals, to create meaningful interactions with that billion users and interact with them better than anyone else, which is quite of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
How do you interact with them better than anyone else? We need to know them better, right?
So, and that too for, I think, what, 50 odd brands?
Yeah. Imagine.
Wow. That's I think that leads me to the next question, right? I mean, personalization at scale. Obviously, data pretty much becomes the fuel for all of it, right? And you played a pivotal role in the digital transformation journey of Unilever Philippines, right? Can you help explain to our audience what are the key building blocks that drove this change, right? How has advertising technology enabled this for the FMCG industry, right? I mean, especially, I think this has become even more prevalent in the last 2 years, right? So just break that down.
I don't think I have enough time to talk about how ad tech is actually fueling all of that, but I will try to be concise.
Yes.
When you said about digital transformation, it's not really just me. It takes a village, right? I'm just part of that village. You'll be amazed by how dynamic everyone thinks in Unilever. Like everyone, including our chairman, Benji Yap, and our director for media, Dennis Perez, they're all very passionate about digitally transforming how we deliver better digital experiences for consumers. And of course, more effective digital media for the company. It's all about savings, right? The building block is not just the talent and the upper management support. It's really making sure that everyone gels and treads the same direction in terms of digitally transforming things. And not at scale. It can be, bits and pieces. Test and learn. Let's see what works. Let's see what doesn't. Right. In addition to that, the good thing about Unilever is because it's a global company, others are doing the same thing. And we're learning from their mistakes. We are learning from their successes. And all of those that are replicable, we replicate that across all markets. So remember before when we launched Data Driven Universe, right? With InMobi. It
Yeah.
was such a hit. It was so simple, but the technical back end is so complex, but it drives the data level, data capture across. It has many markets wanted to replicate that. That's how we really do our digital transformation. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right when you said it takes a village.
Yeah.
It's not a one-person job, right? Like, because I feel the journey in itself is, especially at a scale that you're operating at, right, needs multiple, multiple functions to pretty much come together and make it happen. And then, what I really want to kind of call out right now is the kind of level of agility you and your entire team show. I mean,
Yeah.
cheers to that.
Yeah. Proud
That
proud of the team.
Yep, totally. That brings me to the next broad question, right? What tech trends are Unilever leveraging, right, to kind of stay ahead, the curve. It comes down end of the day to a brand and the user relationship, the specific audience relationship within the marketing funnel in terms of, say, awareness or acquisition
Right.
or
Right.
engagement or more, right? The market is extremely competitive. How has Unilever managed to cut through this clutter and reach out to this audience, right? I mean, and what trends do you see at tech, Unilever leveraging within the ad tech ecosystem?
So, of course, in the heart of it all, aside from data, it's also the ad tech. So, ad tech unlocks us to create more effective ways for us to communicate with our consumers through data-driven marketing. Gone are the days wherein we do spray and pray approach, wherein we just target all and then hope that somebody will buy from us. We actually fit our campaigns and communications based on our target audiences. And with ad tech, being able to dynamically retarget based on the right moment, the right consumers, the right message, it amplifies our conversion rates better, right? Lastly, and sometimes this is often overlooked, measurement. Because
Yeah.
before, we measure only based on reach, on clicks, etc. We've graduated from that. That's hygienic. We still look at that, but we
Yeah.
also look at the business outcomes. And the beauty with ad tech is all of those tracking technologies, etc., allows us to really track the effectiveness of a campaign based on the business outcome. And being able to see the big picture of our spend versus the business outcomes, it allows us to budget better, to plan better, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's widely used again and again, the term of measuring a spend to the outcome, but in action it's not as simple, right?
It's
In
not as
action it's
simple.
not as simple because you have to tie a lot of it for the final output to make sense, right, and for you to
Correct.
start taking decisions on the back of it.
Correct.
And I think you rightly said that, right? And where do you think ad tech space is heading, right? What will that affect the CPG segment, say, in the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, number one, it's making sure that the data that we're using, the first third party data that we're using, is ethically leveraged.
Yeah.
Because data privacy and transparency, those are the key themes in the next few years. It's inevitable, right? And that's even the reason why we are in the cookieless near future in the first place, because of data privacy. In terms of measurement, instead of just looking at it on a per campaign basis, being able to measure, um, let's say, your sales from different retailers and basically computing for the consumer lifetime value, that's where it's headed. And you're right, it's not that easy. It's not just the ad tech that will play a role. We need to
Yeah.
have strong retailer partnerships to make it happen. And I think that's where Unilever is headed, making sure that we spend effectively, we unlock those key partnerships, and for us to make sure that the ad tech measurement, targeting are in place in order for us to really lift the overall consumer lifetime value of the company.
Oh, can I ask you a question on, on just double clicking on the measurement aspect, right? Uh, what do you expect from the ad tech industry? Let me put it this way, right? Is there an expectation you have from the ad tech ecosystem, to, for us to kind of serve a brand like Unilever, who has 40 plus, 50 plus brands better?
Right. For ad tech, my expectation is not for ad tech not to look at the campaign as just a campaign,
Yeah.
but to look at consumers, because because these are the people we are marketing for, right? Being able to see one consumer buys home care products, buys beauty and personal care products, foods, etc., etc. Being able to see that holistic view, not just based on the categories, but the stores they're buying from, online and offline. That's the dream. But of course, we know that we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But the building blocks are there, right?
Yeah.
Um, for online, for e-commerce, perhaps you can have that with the right retail, with the right partnerships with the online retailers. For offline, of course, there are technologies to bridge the gap between the offline data and what we can do online. So it's really more of connecting it seamlessly. And isn't that ad tech, isn't that what ad tech is all about?
Yeah.
Making sure that the complex becomes simple for marketers to really do data-driven marketing effectively.
That's, again, right, that's a very, very interesting way you've put it. But in a nutshell, what you're essentially talking about is that the ecosystem has to come together
Yeah.
and, build that single view of the consumer that we all talk about, right? And at InMobi, that's what we keep thriving. We thrive to get to that level of giving that experience to our brands of that single view of the consumer, right? And that, I think we are now at the end of our session. But just before our session, what I'd really love for you to share is a few tips that if you could give away to many young and ambitious advertising and marketing professionals out there, right? I mean, I think I do believe there are a lot of people in the Philippines who really look up to the kind of work you're doing, and it'll really help if you can kind of give those few three tips.
Sure. And thank you for that, Ethan. I think I'll share what I've learned in Unilever. Number one is learn to unlearn. So digital is always evolving. We need to be open to changes. We need to learn how to pivot, to basically be ready to throw our misconceptions, because in the next few months or years, things may change. What you believe now may not be true,
Yeah.
or the limitations now may not necessarily be the same limitations in the next few months, because tech is just really fast and we need to adapt. Second is learn to experiment and learn to fail fast. Um, One of the reasons why we are very quick in terms of launching what we need to launch, right, in terms of capabilities and all of that partnerships, because in our head, there's no such thing as perfect launch. We're bold enough to try out new things, launch MVPs, and tweak those MVPs along the way based on what we learn, based on what we test, based on what the consumers are telling us. And this is very important, especially in e-commerce, because agility is more important than perfection. And lastly is, because Unilever has always been consumer centric, learn from your customers. So being able to get insights on the ground learning it firsthand from consumers, it's key for you to deliver highly relevant campaigns. And of course, well-attuned solutions. And at the end of the day, we're doing this for our consumers. So it's important to
Yeah.
be customer centric and to look after what's best for them. And even like in our market, we know that cookieless is happening. We launched our own program called Ucoin, which is a more rewarding way for us to more rewarding way for the consumers rather to share their data, because we give them points, we give them
Yeah.
coins that they can
Yeah.
exchange for the things that they love. And just to share with you, like in a matter of a year, we're now at 800,000 subscribers. And
Wow.
times two of that are redeeming. And big thanks, because all of those are connected to the data-driven universe that you guys are also capturing. So imagine the connection of the ad tech there. These are the things that the consumers don't see, but we really take care of the nitty-gritty. So it's all connected.
Can you share with us the most exciting part of your job? Clearly the way the way you're explaining things, there's a lot of passion that drives the work you do. So what's the most exciting thing, as an outcome for you?
Whenever I see that something new or something, let's say, something that hasn't been done before, whether it be data, ways of doing tech, is driving results. I get goosebumps whenever I see the numbers saying, oh wow, we've actually hit this milestone of revenues. We've actually leveraged on data and grew our revenues by this much. That for me is really exciting, because I've been in the industry for quite some time, and usually before I just get excited with new technologies. But one thing that I learned from Unilever is your technology is not really good enough, not
Yeah.
unless it drives results. Yeah.
I think that's perfectly said, and I think that brings us to the end of this episode. That brings us to the end of this episode. Amazing takeaways. Thanks so much, Vence. I'm just listing down few key takeaways for the audience about the conversation today. Vence spoke about listening to your customer. She spoke about personalization being key, building those one-to-one relationships. She'd love to have the ecosystem work together to bring that single view of the customer. E-commerce is here to stay, and we're all seeing the kind of rapid growth it's having in the region, and Philippines especially, right? And the last point that she made, which I really love, is leveraging tech, right, to build that amazing experience, digital experience for the consumer, right? You got to test and learn, you got to fail fast, so that you adapt to technologies, to upcoming technologies, and build that experience for your customer on a daily basis. Thank you so much, Vince. I think it was an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation, right? We loved the conversation today. Thank you everyone for watching this episode. We hope you enjoyed these insights and they were useful to you. If you're keen to find out more about InMobi solutions, head over to our website, inmobi.com. That's all for this episode, folks. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.